Roll call.
Gary Libby. Robert Ellis.
Here.
Amy Powell. Here. Ellen Humphrey. Here. Raymond Masson.
Here.
William Bittor.
Hello. Damn.
And Tony Servance. He should be.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Tony. Hi, Tony. All right.
So as you can see, Mr. Servance has requested to attend the meeting remotely. He needs to just briefly advise the board the reason for his attendance remotely, and then the board will need to make a motion to allow his attendance.
Go ahead, Tony.
Is he on mute by chance?
He is here. He has to connect his audio.
Okay. Does he know he needs to connect his audio?
He should.
Can you hear us? Connect your audio.
If it's like me, he's trying to find the button.
He's so nice.
I'm assuming it's probably the same reason as last time. So,
I'll make a motion to allow him to participate virtually.
A second.
All right, motion passed.
we need to vote.
Oh, we need to vote.
Yes.
Where am I tonight? Minor detail. Oh, all right. So everyone in favor of having Tony over video? Aye. Aye. Everyone opposed? All right, seeing no one's opposed, Tony will be attending virtually. All right, now we move to Pledge of Allegiance. Let's all stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we'll begin with an approval of our minutes for the last meeting. Does anybody see anything that they want amended in our last meeting's minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the minutes to include an abbreviated list of the reasons why I dissented on the Silver Beach condo project.
All right.
My motion.
I'll first the motion. Or who would like to second it?
Oh, I'll second that motion, yes.
All right. Everyone in favor of Amy's motion? Aye.
Aye.
Everyone opposed? Seeing no one's opposed, let's have a motion to amend the minutes. What would you like it amended? Do you have a list?
It's a very brief list, and it's everything that it's pretty much word for word what I read during the meeting, but I think, I'd be happy to give my reasons why.
Do we need to do that verbally, or do you just want to?
The board needs to know what they voted on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably need to know, so.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Did you have a copy for
Do you have a
everyone?
copy for everyone, or just one copy?
No, well, I actually made 2 copies.
2 copies.
Okay.
Would it be sufficient if Amy read it? Why
Yeah, it would be sufficient if she, just
don't you
basically.
go ahead and read it for us,
Yeah,
Amy?
and let me scan one.
Here, I'll let you scan mine.
Oh, thank
I
you.
can listen.
Number 1, the reasons why I dissented, I was the sole dissenting vote on the redevelopment board for the Silver Beach condo hotel. Number 1, transition between large and adjacent buildings and adjacent small buildings was too great in this request. The setback requirements in the LDC of 162 reduced to 20 is too much and not balanced by the benefits. Number 2, stacking reduction. Loading and unloading is going to occur along A1A and block traffic just like it does at Ocean Walk. Number 3, regarding environmental impacts, staff made no efforts and deferred to the state, which to me meant if the state allows it, we will allow it. I believe the city of Daytona Beach is obliged to its citizens to step back and recognize the state may not know what is best for us. Number 4, because we may build east of the CCCL doesn't mean we should or are obliged to grant a developer the opportunity to take that risk. Number 5, when asked about economic impact on property values, staff deferred to redevelopment, but I have not seen any backup to show how this building will have a positive economic effect to the area and will contribute towards eliminating slum and blighted conditions, as stated in the memo from the Redevelopment Department. Please consider examples of how a high-rise condo has affected surrounding areas in the past. Number 6, this project does not meet policies, goals, and objectives stated. Number 7, this project does not address a community need. Number 8, restaurant and entertainment are valet only, not inclusive, therefore not a valid public benefit. Number 9, concerns at the neighborhood meeting were dismissed and not mentioned in the report.
All right. Now we take a vote?
Yes, and make sure the clerk does get a copy of that.
Okay.
I don't know. Who's got one copy?
I'm close.
Here's
So
your-
get an email, we get an email to me later on?
It'll be included as part of the minutes, which are available, but yes, we can make sure you get a copy.
All right, now that Amy has read that out loud, everyone in favor?
Is there,
Do we make another motion, or do we just vote?
The motion was fine.
Motion was fine, yeah. All right, everyone in favor of changing the minutes to add that in?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right,
Second the motion.
do what?
Who's second?
Who seconded?
Okay.
It was
Oh,
Mr.
you
William
did.
Bittor. Mr. Bittor. All right.
Thank you.
Any other changes to the minutes? All right. Who would like to make a motion to approve? I'll make a motion. Anyone want to second it? I'll second. All right. Everyone in favor of approving the minutes at this point?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Seeing no one opposed, we have the minutes approved for May 10th. On to new business. So,
Oh, you want it back? Yeah. I
what do we have for, no new business? All right, we have no new business this meeting. I didn't think so. All right. Dun, dun, dun. So we have a presentation on the Peninsula Club. But
Hello,
hello.
I'm Sheila McKay Vaughn. I live at 510 South Peninsula Drive, Daytona Beach, 32118. I am here representing the Peninsula Club. I was once the president of it. I am not at the present time, but however, I am here making this presentation. And the club is wanting asking for you to consider making a grant to the city to finish up the Peninsula Club, what has to be done to it so that it can be opened and it can be used. We want the citizens to have that use, we want the club to have the use, and the city as well. The reason that I'm asking your board for it is because I know that there's money in the redevelopment board, and that's what the redevelopment districts were created for. They were created to create a fund that could be spent in the area for worthy projects. I believe this is a very worthy project. This is a historic building. It's on the National Register of, National Register for Historic Places, and a contributing structure in the South Peninsula Historic District as well. The building was built in 1923, so this is 100 years for that, and the club would be very happy to be back to celebrate it, for their 100th year. The club gave this building to the city for use. It was done on March 9th, 2000, and it was for use by the city and the citizens of the city. It was specifically stated that because the Peninsula Club was created all these years as a service club. They would raise money and then they would help people in the city, and they wanted that to continue. And so they wanted the building to be there. In fact, one of their options was they could have sold the building and it could have become something else, but in fact, they didn't want it to be like that. So hopefully, we can get this accomplished. Since the city's owned it, their city has held many meetings there and a lot of weddings and family gatherings and all kinds of things. So it does serve the community in many ways. It can seat, by the way, 250 people, which I think is kind of a nice little group. I mean, it's a nice, big enough and yet small enough to be useful to many people. The club was asked to leave the building about 5 years ago because of hurricane damage and because of COVID. So the building has been sitting there unused all of this time. And then the city went ahead and spent almost $500,000 refurbishing it, which was great. I'm very excited. We all were, and it's been great. I've watched that happen since I live right across the street. And now I've been told that the only reason that it can't be opened is because they need about $25,000 to finish painting the inside and buying chairs and tables. We said we bring the chairs and tables if they did the painting, but hopefully we can get this pulled off. It seems a small amount, and I really think that it would be a good project for the redevelopment board. So I'm here tonight to ask that you consider making this grant so that we can get back in to the club and the citizens can have use of it.
Thank you so much for your presentation. and
Any
your service.
questions?
Does anyone have questions?
Well, I don't really have a question, but I do want to make a comment in full support of this because, for many years, we had our neighborhood meetings there.
Yes.
And it was, the BNW meetings would meet there and the Save Our Neighborhoods meetings were there. It's a great
recall.
venue for, and there was no charge to us.
Yeah.
So it really helps us, a neighborhood group to be able to have a space to meet there.
Great.
We're grateful to the Our Lady of Lourdes lets us use their area. I'm not sure if we pay a fee to them, but the Peninsula Club is a perfect place for that central location for the beachside. So I think $25,000 to me doesn't sound like much. It's a real shame that it has been closed
Yeah.
as long
Yeah.
as it has. I think that's just. It's disgraceful. I keep driving by thinking, is it open yet?
Yeah.
Is it open yet? But,
Yeah.
we're waiting for something to happen at the Orange Avenue Rec Center. That would be great. But the
Yeah.
Peninsula Club can meet a need for, wedding venue, dances, card playing, all kinds of, senior events or things like that. So I'm 100% in favor.
Yeah. Okay, I'm the other 100%. I had my high school prom there, and I still have the picture of me with the sweet boy I was dating, who went out west and became a multi-millionaire. I did not marry him. I married somebody wonderful here.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's
No,
great.
How much money is available to help with this? Do you know offhand, or is there the money available in that area?
Money available in the fund?
Well,
$100,000.
we didn't know actually what the request was going to be, but I can tell you this, the Peninsula Club is handled by our Parks and Recreation Department, and what we've been told by them is that they already have funding for painting the interior and providing the chairs and tables. So
Excellent.
that's what they plan on doing.
Oh, that's excellent news.
Because it touches my heart, actually, Sheila, because I really believe in the city, and I love this city. It's the best city in the United States as far as I'm concerned. My dad was in the Air Force. I've probably been in all 50 states and probably a majority of the cities in the U.S. So I greatly appreciate what you're doing for our community, and thank you.
I would also like to say I'm 100% in support. Having been to the neighborhood meetings that were there, it is such a beautiful venue, and it is great for any event that's had there. And I'm happy to hear we have the funds for it. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate being able to present.
May I ask a question of Ken? Do you have any idea of what kind of schedule we're looking at to get it done?
Well, we don't know. We haven't been told when it's on their schedule, their maintenance schedule. But we will have a report at our next meeting to let you know when they anticipate it being open as well.
Okay.
And when they plan on making those improvements. So
Yeah.
we'll have something for you all next meeting.
That's great.
Do we need a motion to provide our support as a committee on this?
Since it's dealt with Parks and Rec, I don't think we do. It's already being dealt with. It's just a pleasant surprise for us to have a presentation and find out that it's already funded.
We-
That rarely happens.
We might make a motion to urge the city to
Oh, good
step
idea.
up the pace a little bit. I don't know if that's.
I don't know.
I mean, we're an advisory board. I feel like this is the kind of thing that is,
Push.
it's valid for
I agree.
redevelopment in the area. We want the neighborhoods to thrive, because that helps
I agree.
economically, and that helps property values, and I think having a city facility that, the neighbors can enjoy.
Would it be
and also-
appropriate for us to
Well,
make them?
I don't think you have any pushback from staff.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
just
it seems
that,
like it's just
so much to do.
that it was already in
It's already on there.
on their schedule to do. It's just that when they're going to do it.
Well, I would like to put it on the record that we're in support of this,
We
and
don't know.
we'd be happy to see staff get it done at their earliest convenience.
Yes.
Yes, we'll push it from here.
All right,
One person to speak.
all right.
John Nichols.
John Nichols, come on up.
There should be a paper. John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I believe Sheila said it had been a number of years.
5.
5 years.
Yeah.
That's not rushing. 5 years is not rushing to get something completed. All right? The South Atlantic doesn't really have much going. There was a property on Grandview. It took 14 years. We bought it at the height, I think in 2006 or 7. Way too much money. And it dropped to I think we sold it for $45,000. We paid $8 million, we got $45,000. That seems appropriate. So we really haven't done much in the area. This is one of 3 things that are happening in the last 10 years. So I would ask you not to sit back and twiddle your thumbs and say, whenever you feel like doing it, as you know, for not that Ms. Armstrong is not welcome, but we waited 14 years to get a project manager for Beachside. We shouldn't have to wait 14 years to get chairs and a painting job for the center. So I'm asking you to, within a certain period of time, don't sit there and say 14 years is okay, or 5 years, because that's the apparent acceptable time frame. So 5 years, I just cannot believe it's been that long. It looks great from the outside. However, I can't imagine it would take more than a week to paint the inside, and it shouldn't take too long to acquire the furniture. So I would say within the next month, you all will have a time frame of when it will be painted and when it will be open. So that's the least I think you should be able to add.
Ken, will we get an update on that?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
prior to the next meeting, if we get a schedule from Parks and Rec, we'll send the email to everyone.
That would be excellent. Thank you, Ken.
You should at least ask for it, because if you don't, you're not going to get it.
Agreed.
All right.
Agreed.
And secondly, I've said it in the past, and I'll say it again. Somebody asked tonight, well, how much money do we have? I've mentioned to you guys, you should know how much each South Atlantic and Main Street produces. You may not be able to spend it, but at least you should know what's there and what's coming down the pike. There is a project on Grandview that's almost completed. It's not as nice as I thought it was going to be, but at least it's units and it's not housing. So we'll see when they finish how attractive the condos are going to be. But that's, again, something that you should be told. That project is in the works. How far has it gotten and when will it can be completed? It's those kind of things that I think you guys should need to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, John.
All right. I believe that was the only speaker we had on that. Does anybody have any more comments on it? Or-
The one comment I'd like to add is, I know things take time and people get frustrated, but, we have a whole new group in town that are doing things. We got Fietcher here, and we got Ken here. We got a whole new eyes on it, and I think things are looking up. There's a lot of developments coming, and as I know, developers are coming to me on the properties I have on Beachside. So the kind of developers that are coming to me on Beachside are very large and interested in Daytona. And for the first time, those kind of developers are coming here. So the good thing is that even though things are taking time, at least I see things going in a forward positive motion. And I think that's the most important part.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. It does seem as if we have a lot of forward motion right now, though we should definitely stay vigilant.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As is our job. All right. I look forward to seeing that email come through. Thank you, Ken. All right, on to old business. So we have a redevelopment plan overview here.
I'm going to come down, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Mr. Chair, Ken Thomas, Redevelopment Director, and I don't have a pointer. Tonight, what I wanted to do, there's been some questions. I know when I got here early on, what is the responsibilities of the advisory board? What does the CRA do? And I kind of want to give a brief overview of the CRA board.
Thank you, Ken.
We can make this work. Okay. That goes backwards.
It's always the challenging part. Getting the technology to cooperate.
We're getting there. Okay. Okay. All right. So redevelopment, the Florida statutes or the Florida legislators approved the redevelopment, the community redevelopment agencies. This has been going on since 1969 when they created the CRAs, the Florida legislators. And part of the Florida statute, as a city or county can have CRAs, you are also authorized to approve a redevelopment plan. So your Beachside redevelopment has a redevelopment plan that went along with creation of the CRA. And as part of your CRA plan, you have a trust fund. And in your trust fund, that's where you collect the property tax dollars to be able to implement the redevelopment plan. And typically in your redevelopment plan, some things that are done are infill development. You will tackle what they call brownfield, gray fields. Brownfields and gray fields are different. Brownfield typically deal with contamination. Gray fields are really strictly, they focus on properties that are commercial, retail, and they're not contaminated. So they just call them gray fields. Any areas in this particular CRA in your boundaries, the idea is to redevelop it.
And I'm sorry to stop you, but what is brown? What is the definition?
Brownfields typically are properties, individual properties, could be industrial, could be residential, any type of property that is actually contaminated or had a perception of being contaminated.
And your definition of contamination?
Like old oil,
It could be
gas.
an old oil field, a gas station, things of that nature. Yeah.
Dry
Like the
cleaners.
Brown and Brown project dealt with a lot of that before they built.
Map you can look up, you'd be amazed, it's almost the entire area.
Yeah, some of these,
Yeah.
some of these
In our city, it's a lot.
there are some grants, there are some resources that are available to remove contamination if there is some. There's also grant funding to pay for what we call phase one studies. Phase one studies is do a historical review of your potential property.
Thank you.
And so in those particular, as part of your redevelopment plan, your idea is to preserve the areas and make investments for the future for your redevelopment plan, for your redevelopment area. What are CRAs? CRAs are special districts. You have a board. We have a board. And that board is our city commission. That is our redevelopment agency. You all are the advisory board to the CRA. There are, there are areas other than just city that has a redevelopment agency. Counties have redevelopment agencies as well. You can have more than one CRA district in your city. Some cities have 5 CRAs, some have 2, some have 1. It's just if your city determines that you have a need to do redevelopment, you have the ability to create these CRAs. And all of your districts have separate trust funds, separate accounting systems, and separate plans that they must follow. If it's not in the redevelopment plan, we don't do it. there has to be some language in that redevelopment plan that says we're paving a sidewalk. So if sidewalks are not in your redevelopment plan, we don't put any money in sidewalks. It has to be in that plan.
Okay, makes sense.
Reasons to revitalize, then the number one reason is you're trying to attack the blighted conditions in your community. Now, let's think about Beachside. You all, I don't need to point out where these blighted communities or blighted areas are, but we do have a number of blighted areas in the Beachside community. And so it is our job as staff, it is your job as an advisory board, and it's a job as a CRA board to identify those blighted areas in the CRA and attack those blighted areas. Because that's the purpose of having the money. The purpose is not to just generate the revenue and stockpile it. It is to spend the money.
Yeah.
And so spending the money is acquiring property. It is doing private partnerships. It is improving the infrastructure. If it's in your redevelopment plan, it is to do housing. So whatever's in your redevelopment plan, you're supposed to spend that money to address those things in your redevelopment plan. As it says here on the slide, reduce crime. If there's a possibility that we could use our money to reduce the crime, some agencies use money to pay for police services. But if you pay for an officer, you pay for all of their gear that they have, you pay for the uniforms, you pay for the automobile, you pay for their weapon, but they can't go outside the redevelopment area. Mm-hmm. So if you pay for it on the beach side, they can't go in Midtown and patrol. So that's the throwback when you consider paying for police services, they can't go all over the city. You have to stop at your gates of your redevelopment area. Also, you can use the money for economic development, housing, infrastructure, streetscapes, helping with historical buildings, recruiting businesses, help with parks and rec, and reversing the decline in your tax base. Next slide talks about areas of decline. It also is just a continuation of, what you can use your money for, land use issues, layout parcels, traffic problems, flooding, hazardous. But all of those things, all those bullet points have to somewhere in your redevelopment plan state that that's what you plan on doing. Now, what does the CRA board do? Every year you have to do an annual plan, an annual budget to talk about how you're going to spend the money, identify funding programs, funding programs, and also your priorities. If you need to make any modifications to your plan, that is the time to do it at the beginning of the year. You can allocate money to different projects and programs. Staff is directed to provide input. Public can provide input. We can have visioning sessions. The CRA board can sign contracts. They can hire consultants. Just anything to carry out the redevelopment plan.
To be clear, that CRA board is the city commission.
Is the city
not
commission,
Yeah,
right, yes. You all are the advisory board, which I sort of envision, you're the eyes and ears of the community. So you advise the city commission on the issues and the concerns of the CRA area in which you serve as advisory board. And that's to how things should flow.
So could we do a vision meeting or put it on an agenda for things that we think could be addressed? I don't know if that's proper or not.
I talked to our new city attorney about that, and there were some issues with, having public meetings and the sunshine law, but I'll let Kira address that one. Because there are some issues. I mean, if we want to have a visioning session, we can have it here during our monthly meeting, which will, sort of.
Put it on the agenda.
Yes.
For one of the
Yes,
open
absolutely.
meetings. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I think the new city attorney was addressing is that you can't have breakout groups where some people go over here and some people go over there. Everybody has to participate in the one big meeting. And some even question whether you can put Post-it note things on walls because can everybody see it? Can everybody acknowledge it? So it does make that kind of visioning process difficult.
Understood. I'm talking actually during the meeting.
Right, right. And part of what you have to keep in mind, though, is you have your existing plan, that anything, you could go two different routes with that. You can make recommendations to the plan and any changes to that, or it could be how you're implementing the plan.
If I could pipe up for just a second, before we do any like visioning plans, like getting together in a meeting or having it on the agenda, I think all of us, I don't know how many have read the actual redevelopment plan, you know? I mean, it's kind of a thick document. We should make sure that we're all at least versed in it or have looked it over before we come to discuss, because it needs to stay within those parameters. And if we're just, you know, throwing out ideas, that's great, but if it's a visioning plan to like amend the plan, we should all be really familiar with it before we do that.
Yeah.
I know it would take me a little while to get to that point.
It's a bit of a thick pack.
Yeah, so maybe we set that as like in 6 months, if all of us are kind of ready to do that, maybe we do something like that.
And it's not just, you got the South Atlantic CRA plan, and you also have the Main Street redevelopment plan that you all are advising
That we both
for.
advise, yeah.
Yeah. Oftentimes, there's always questions about public-private partnerships. You know, can we spend public dollars with private entities? And there is some case law that supports it. So you can do it. I mean, the cities do it throughout the state of Florida. They support private entities, but when it has to relate to the plan. And your plan would say, for instance, if you spend tax increment money, it has to create jobs, it has to increase the tax base. So as long as you are following those objectives, you can utilize your tax increment money. And as the next bullet point says, as an investment, it's not a giveaway, it's an investment in a project. And I think someone said earlier about, you know, making investments into the community. That is what the money is used for. But we oftentimes look for a return on investment, probably not early on because you're trying to get the project up and rolling. But at the end, you want the project that you support, that you put money in, has a long-term return on investment. And we need the private sector to participate in the redevelopment because we just don't have enough money to go around. We have a lot of problems, we have a lot of issues, we have a lot of blight, but we cannot handle it all just with our tax increment. So we would prefer the private company, and I think John mentioned it earlier, the project on Grandview, nice townhouse project. I mean, they really did a nice job there, and you wouldn't believe what the rents are going to be just a block or so off of Atlantic Avenue. But it's a real nice project, and it's increasing the tax base. So those projects are great for our CRA.
It is great, yeah.
What can CRA's board do as well? They carry out the statutory objectives for the CRA. That's your plan. They inspect properties that we own. You can buy property, you can own property. You can acquire property as well. You can also hold property for leasehold. You can demo property. You can remove property, repair property. It all has to be either owned by the CRA or has to support the CRA plan. You can enter into contracts. You can solicit proposals. You can invest in funds, redeem bonds. All those things are within the wheelhouse and within the statute of the CRA. You can support convention centers. You can dispose of property that you own. You can provide for housing, utilities, parking, parks, and playground, as long as it's in your redevelopment plan. These are things that are a general overview of what the statute will allow you to do, but you don't necessarily have to do it if it's not in your plan. Other things that they do, I'm going to go past that one. Here's what you cannot do as part of your financing or funding for tax increment. You cannot utilize money to construct or expand an administrative building. And that building could be City Hall, it could be a public or fire departments. They really do not allow you to use those public dollars, these tax increment dollars, for construction or expansion of public buildings. And the exception is each taxing authority has to agree. I haven't heard of anyone appealing this. Maybe it has happened, but I haven't heard of it through my years of being in government where a city has asked the other taxing districts or taxing authorities, entities to support building a fire station or a police station. But that's the only way that you really can do it. You have to get those other taxing districts to agree to it. Capital improvements, projects that were previously approved by a public capital improvement program like your city CIP, we don't come in there and take the place of your capital improvement plan. If you have it on your capital improvement plan, you should spend it with those resources. General government operating expenses unrelated to planning and carrying out the CRA. So if you have a staff that you want to pay, but they have nothing to do with CRA, we can't use the money for that. So I can't go over in Public Works and say, hey, we're going to pay for a staff person, but that staff person in Public Works has nothing to do with CRA, so we can't use the money for it. I'm talking a lot about trust fund. Trust fund is really the property taxes that we collect from each property owner that's in a CRA district. And that's called, they call it TIF, T-I-F, tax increment finance. And so that's the acronym that we throw around a lot for CRAs, but it's really just the property taxes that we collect from all of the nice property owners throughout the city. And again, cities and counties and certain districts, they all contribute to the CRAs. We don't get any money from the school boards, library districts. Those were not part of the legislation. And the purpose is to increase the taxable value from year of creation. So, whenever we start it, your job is to make sure that the values continue to increase so that we can have money in our trust fund. And I talked a lot about what we can spend money on for anyway, administrative overhead, only if you are a part of the redevelopment efforts. We can do surveying, we can planning, anything that deals, we can do financial analysis with our redevelopment money. You can pay for money that you borrowed to do redevelopment projects. You can develop affordable housing, and you can do some policing initiatives, but you just have to make sure that it stays in the redevelopment zone. Other things that it pay for, and you can do nonprofit activities. You can promote, the CRA. There's been some discussion in the state about utilizing money for promotions, CRA money for promotions. So it's a fine line, and we try to not to go beyond that line because you can be slapped by the legislators if you don't spend the money appropriately. We can provide incentives and grants to private entities that help promote the CRA plan. We could help with code enforcement, land acquisitions, and we can also do cost sharing. And that's it for my presentation today. I'll be glad to answer any questions, but that's basically an overview of, what you do as a CRA board. And just a FYI, as your advisory board, Mr. Monsoon, about, having a visioning session. I think it's a great idea to talk about what you want to see as an advisory board for this community, for the Beachside CRA, so that you help us to prioritize what you want to see happen in the community. We have nothing to hide as staff. I think when I got here, if I had to meet any of you for the first time, one of the first things we gave each and every one of you, all of the advisory board, was a copy of the budget. We want you to know how much money is, at least from the previous year, was collected for your CRA. So at the end of the day, it ain't how much we get, it is how you spend it and what you spend it on. We can collect $10 million, but if you're not doing anything with it, it don't mean anything to anybody. Yes, sir.
I wanted to applaud you on your copy of the Beachside Public Work projects.
Oh, okay.
Is that something we'll get on a?
Oh, yeah. Public Works is really good at providing that information every month.
That's good information, because otherwise I would have no idea.
Yep. And if there's a request on you, there's something that, there's a street, or you want to know about sidewalks or something in general, we send that what we do, we send that information to Public Works as a request, so that when we have our next meeting or meeting thereafter, we want to report back to you all.
Excellent.
You just touched on something that I was going to ask. Your presentation is fantastic. I'm getting a lot of information from you. Specifically, I own a business on Main Street, and on the sidewalk next to my building is a really bad crack and whatever. And leaving work one night carrying a bunch of stuff. Anyway, I tripped and fell right out into Hollywood, didn't get hurt. But I have talked to the city again and again about getting that fixed. Now, there's a brand new barber shop. He said he needed his sidewalk fixed. The next morning they were there. There's a bar across the street from me, right across the street from me. That was fixed. So who do I talk to about maybe getting that? That's question number one. Question number two, there's a water retention park, which abuts my parking lot. It looked fine, and about 2 weeks ago, they were in there taking all the concrete and stuff out, and I thought, man, they could have done my sidewalk for a lot less money, and I don't know what was the matter with that park. Maybe the guy over there will know. And the other question, and then I'll make room for others. For instance, Main Street has the Bike Week. There's a bar that is right across the street from my property. They have a huge police force there. Who pays for that?
Well, the city, the new one, the new police substation?
No, it's...
Isn't that the Main Street
during-
Merchants Association, Helen?
Is it?
I believe that's the Main Street Merchants Association
That
that
pays for all those police?
I believe the bar itself might pay for a lot of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I just...
I believe
You mean the
Merchants
police services,
Association.
you mean the uniform officers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's general fund, we're paying for that.
Oh, that is general fund.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean...
I'll double check to make sure.
Yeah, because it's more than a heavy presence there.
It would actually depend upon how the police officers are there. If they are on the property, they could be doing extra duty detail.
Yeah, they're
If
not
it's just in the area, that's just the city putting forward additional police officers during those times
Yeah.
of Bike Week and Biketoberfest and all of those. So that would be general fund.
Okay.
And your first issue was a sidewalk.
Yeah.
And what's the address?
My store is at 500 Main Street, and it's right next to Hollywood.
Okay. And that's where the crack in the,
Yeah.
okay, all right, we got it. And the other issue was, your second issue, wasn't the,
Police presence.
The policeman.
yeah, she had three issues.
Let's see. I think we've covered it. Why the park was redone.
Yeah,
And the sidewalk.
right,
And-
okay, it was the public utilities, it was it was a retention area you talked
Yeah,
about.
The park is a water retention.
Okay, all right.
And I just wondered why, because the park looked just fine, and then they had heavy equipment in there, and they were taking concrete out, and I thought, why.
We are making, I know Public Utilities is making improvements. I forget the name of that street. You remember, Michelle, Angela? Where the utilities, they're redoing the, yeah. We'll find out because
Okay.
the city is planning on making some improvements to one of the,
As part of the ISB project, their utilities are being undergrounded.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Electric
yeah.
utilities undergrounded,
was
other
a,
utilities moved out of the way.
Yeah, this was a sewer treatment facility
Oh, okay.
that they're improving.
Like a lift station?
Yes, a lift station.
Okay.
It looks like a house, but it's gonna,
Yeah.
you won't know it. It's a
Yeah.
lift station in there. So they were making some improvements to it. It's near the, it's on Aura.
Oh, okay. Oh, I know where that is.
Yeah, it's on Aura.
Speaking of ISB, that new Beaches restaurant is such an upgrade. It's wonderful.
Well,
Really.
we want more of those.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had a couple things. One, I was very excited to see this whole presentation, and it's nice to know, I mean, I've read a lot of stuff, but it's good to see, like, so many little things that we can do in the area. You know, like a 27-story condo is not always the be-all, end-all, because we won't see any tax increment from that for 10 years. So the little things that we can do in this area now are really going to make a difference. So in light of thinking about private-public partnerships too, or public-private, however you say, PPP, it's not always, to me, it's not always big corporations with, you know, we're going to give them some tax increment financing and give them a break, and then they're going to sink some big money into it. In a way, what I do with my house is private sector, I mean, it's private money going into the CRA. So I look at the people that buy homes and fix up homes, maybe they buy them to rent, to use as rentals, or maybe it's their own home. When they're fixing up their homes, they're improving the CRA.
Right.
So ways to incentivize that, I'm sort of just thinking out loud here, but there's been big discussions, we don't have to talk about it right now, about allowing short-term rentals, which seem to really turn a crummy property into a good property at times. I know that's a big topic, but other things like we do have facade grants, and I guess hopefully those get used every year. Do we go through those completely every year? I mean, I think there's.
No, we don't spend all our money. No, we don't do it, but we do have a number of business owners and a few residents do take advantage of it, but no, but we don't spend all our
Do you
money.
see people coming back again, like the same people coming back?
No, because there's a period you have to wait.
Oh, okay.
And then you can come back and apply for more. But some of the businesses do come and they want new awnings and painting of the buildings. We can paint buildings, and so they do take
What
advantage
is
of
that
that.
period of wait time for private? I'm sorry to butt in there. What is the period of wait time, out of curiosity, for private versus the commercial sector for facade grants and whatnot?
Actually, since Angela's now on board, it's a really streamlined application. I think it's 2 pages. 1 page.
1 page.
One page. And so, but as an applicant, you have to provide name information, just contact information, but you have to give us at least 2, contractors who are giving you a scope of work and the cost.
Of course.
Yeah, that's all.
Oh, okay.
On that same, that's okay, I don't mind at all. On the, the facade grants, one thing I'd like to recommend, if we have $50,000 to use in a year and we don't use it all, does it roll over or do we start again?
Yeah, see, CRA money, we keep the money. It didn't go anywhere like general fund. I mean,
If, say you have 10 $5,000 grants to give out in a year, is the next year, and you only use 5 of them, do 5 of them move, so the next year we have 15? Or it's
No, we unfortunately, we don't do that. We take that money and finance puts it, I believe, it stays in the trust fund.
Right.
But when we do our new budget, that facade program, if we had $100,000 last year, we're going to have $100,000 this year.
right.
Unless we decide to add more money to it. But we don't take, if you didn't spend 50 grand of it the previous year, it doesn't roll over to the new year.
That's what I'm asking.
yeah.
So
No.
how about we develop a way to, if it's coming to the end of the year and say we have another $20,000 in grants, maybe we approach some, is there a way to either advertise or put the word out? People, we have 5 grants left of $5,000 each. Come and get them kind of thing, because we want to use that money every year and
Good idea.
have it work for people.
Good idea. We can work with our communications director to put that information out. Absolutely.
And then one other tiny little thing. For someone like me who's I say handyman because handywoman sounds a little odd, but I like to do a lot of work myself. So when I'm painting my house, I'm painting it myself. I could not apply for any of the facade grants because I'm doing all the work myself.
Right.
So I know in Holly Hill, they did a program, I think, called Paint the Town, where they allowed people to come and get buckets of paint. If you want to paint your house, you come and get 5 buckets of paint, or they paid for the paint materials, but the people could do the work themselves. It was a little less stringent than our grant program. So I kind of, wonder if people would be in favor of having either a certain amount of it. I know it has to have oversight because you don't want somebody like building a porch themselves that's going to fall down, that kind of thing. But for something like painting, do you really have to have 2 contractors, or can people do it themselves? That would be my suggestion. I'd really like to see that.
I'd like to add one thing to that, and just knowing, because I used to be a contractor. My father, I grew up in building homes and stuff. The issue you're going to have is and I like the idea, that's the most beautiful idea, to give people paint, but they have to have some kind of agreement if we're going to give them the paint that it's going to go on to beautification.
yeah.
You know what I mean? We're just not going to it's not going to just be a handout, it's going to be something for the community, and I would definitely be behind it. There's one huge question I wanted to ask. Okay, as you're doing the facade grants, is there different things for, like, changing out nasty chain link fencing, or is there different facade grants for just beautifying everything? Because what I don't like, and I have a business on East ISB, I have multiple businesses. What I don't like is, well, I love the city. I have nothing I don't like about Daytona, let's be frank. But what I would like to see is something being more uniform in the way that our city leadership decides what's code, what looks good, and what doesn't. And if there's grants for those that have these fences up, is there grants to make something more beautified, so when people drive through our town, down our corridor, and they're going to spend money everywhere else in our town, they have a good feeling in their stomach. It doesn't feel like it's seedy. It feels like it's the beautiful Daytona that I know it is.
Yeah. Our land development code, we have design standards in there if you're doing anything in the redevelopment area. If you're going to paint your building in the redevelopment area, you have to get approval from our redevelopment staff.
Yes, sir, I know that, sir.
Now, there are some issues with maintenance of properties that we see, that you all see. We see exactly what you see when we don't like it. But we're also bounded by, giving people, due diligence or the right to make repairs. So we send code enforcement out, and
they do a great job.
We have to give them an opportunity to correct their problems. But I'm trying to answer Bill's question. There is some uniformity in the code, but everybody is not coming to ask to paint their building. So if we identified, like some cities, they identify a particular street, and they provide the paint, as Amy was saying, and they do it in residential, really. And they just pick a whole street and they paint the whole street. But they're not all the same color.
Yeah.
But you're putting a new face on an entire street, and hopefully that'll bring some beautification. But you can do that in commercial, you can do that in residential. It is really the flavor of what you want to do as a city.
Yeah, I've just noticed that it is a lot more streamlined than it was in the past. That's why I'm so excited about the job that you're doing, Angela, so thank you.
You got a question, Amy?
As far as what we are allowed to pay for, we talked about policing, and that would be only if it was specific to the CRA. So has the city ever considered either a strictly, like a Beachside CRA code officer, or a Beachside CRA, like a beat cop kind of patrol? Like you said, they'd have to stay completely in the CRA,
Right.
so they couldn't help anywhere else, but like, for example, on the boardwalk, to have the same cop walking up and down saying, "How you doing, ma'am? How you doing, ma'am?" Simple things like that. Is that something that we've ever considered?
I saw the sergeant here. Is she still here?
Yep, she's still here.
Yeah, she may can dress about the police services, but code enforcement, they do have a person who's designated for certain areas like the beach side. But police department, I'm not sure.
Well, being on Beachside for years, it's cleaned up a lot. That's for sure. Daytona PD has done a great job. Thank you. But us residents got to help the police and call when we see something going on. It's not as much even having a police there all the time as call the police when you see something. What I'm saying is, like, across the street from me, there was like a lady just camped out with a tent right in front of Beaches, Mr. Duva.
I wondered what was going on.
And actually, I'm going to tell you how great our city is. I contacted actually Mr. Fiecher, and probably within like an hour, it's gone.
Oh,
Okay, so what we have to do is we have to do this as a team. This is our community. These are our neighbors. The police are here to protect us, and we've got to help the police at any moment that we can. And I greatly appreciate your service, all of you. Thank you.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, before I leave the podium, I do want to mention, I don't know if Angela's going to mention it, but at the city commission meeting next week, Wednesday, we do have an item on the agenda for acquisition of property on Peninsula.
Okay.
201 Peninsula.
201.
201? Yeah, 210 Peninsula.
210. Okay.
Yeah.
210.
There used to be a church on the property,
Okay.
but it's vacant. Forget the name of the church, but. Is it North or South Calvary? It is, I would say North Peninsula. North Peninsula
Yeah, north of Main Street.
and Hollywood. Yes.
Oh, it's empty
Yeah,
where it
big
burned down?
empty property.
Yes.
Where the
Yes.
burned down?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So what are the plans? Or are
Well, the plans, if the city commission, the CRA board agrees to purchase that land, the city would have control over it, and then we would put an RFP out for a developer to develop the property. And what we see happening there is probably first sale, townhouses or condominiums, because you're so close to the convention center. You if you own a piece of property there, you can walk to the convention center, you can walk to the Peabody.
Absolutely.
It would be a nice addition to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it would be market rate. It would be, for sale. So, but we needed to hopefully get control of the property so that we can, as I said, remove the blighted conditions
Yeah.
and make it something great in the end. So we're hoping that we get favor to be able to purchase the property.
That's exciting news.
Yeah, that is.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Good job.
Thank you,
I
Ken.
believe before we move on to public comments, somehow the police officer report didn't make it onto our agenda. I apologize about that. So we're going to go ahead and have that report.
All right. How is everybody this evening?
We're great. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Hungry.
I'm very hungry. Yes. Yes. Hanger is about to start. So for this year to date, at this point, we're down 75% in homicides, which is going from 4 to 1. We're down 10% in auto thefts. We are down 33% in total burglaries for the district. We are down 24% in vehicle burglaries. We are down 18% in robberies, and we are unfortunately up 30% in aggravated batteries and assaults. Total Part 1 crimes, though, are down 9%, which is good because we always shoot for
Wow.
10% for the year.
Yeah.
We've still got a little bit of time left before all that happens.
Yeah.
To answer your question about the police department, 20 years ago when I started, I know it's hard to believe, we had a Main Street redevelopment unit. It had a sergeant and 5 officers, and part of their area of responsibility was between Speedway and Seabreeze, the river to the ocean. It included the boardwalk. It included all of that residential area. And it was dedicated solely to that area, and it was paid for by funds from the redevelopment area.
Yeah.
So I don't know if things changed because we moved to a 12-hour shift, if it changed because there was no more funding, but it did come from that. They had a dedicated detective for the area that worked on crimes from that general area, but we'd be happy to have more cops to do it.
You like that
me too.
idea?
I mean, it's my personal opinion.
Yeah,
I
personally.
actually would like to see something similar in the Seabreeze corridor where the bars
Oh,
are at night.
yes.
With the fact that we don't have a hookah pub there anymore, we don't
Oh,
have,
I was just going to ask you about
yeah,
that.
both hookah businesses are gone.
Oh, excellent. That was,
For bar closing, for me, just as personal, to answer that, bar closing happens in 15 to 20 minutes now without having that hookah pub down there, or both of them down there. So we have a lot less
No longer
issue.
hours.
No long hours, which means there's nowhere for people to hang out,
great.
get angry, continue to drink,
and then do stupid stuff or kill somebody.
yes,
Yeah.
they end up winning
Yeah.
stupid prizes.
Yeah.
Well, most importantly is you have residents that live near there.
Yes.
And it becomes a huge nuisance when, God knows I was in the bar business and I leased to people and they just, a lot of people just don't care when they come to our community. They come from other places, they come here to make money and they don't care what happens to our residents. And I think that if somebody's a responsible bar owner, they're going to care about the neighborhood around them. But, finding somebody responsible, that's the trick.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, it's absolutely true. They don't care about the neighborhoods. I mean, they care about what creates their business. They're attracting whomever
Absolutely.
they need to their business to make themselves money.
Yeah.
So,
And they're not looking at the liability because usually they're coming in there and renting.
absolutely.
Yes.
They don't care if the
There's very
place
few
gets shut
bar
down.
owners that own the structure that they work out of on Seabreeze. So,
Or East ISB.
no, that's true too.
So-
And- yes,
I was just going to say years ago, and of course I've had my business 68 years now, the police used to walk
yes.
and or ride their bike and come in and,
Yeah.
yeah.
At as short-staffed as we have gotten at this point, which we're on our way back to making ourselves back to our minimum number, hopefully by the end of the year. We have more of these kids like to ride bicycles, so we stick them on bicycles, especially at night on Fridays and Saturdays. They love it. They like to go out and ride, and it shows like a lot of the business owners are happy to see that because
Yeah.
they see the officers a lot closer to their business instead of just driving by.
Physically see the person.
Absolutely.
One big change I've seen, and I'm very commend the police department, is it's proactive, not reactive.
Yep.
Meaning, it's been probably a few months ago, my father was inside of my business and he was waiting for me, and he had the TV up loud, and the back door was open. So when the police came by, they were concerned, so they stopped to see if my father was okay or the place was being robbed, because it was something that they didn't notice. So I would say that I'm really pleased with the department. I feel that we're safe here in Daytona because of this department. I feel we have, well, I'm biased because I like the chief. I think we're really blessed, and I greatly appreciate you, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
We have the truck event this coming weekend that also happened last
Again?
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't that just happen?
It did. We got caught off guard, but a lot of these kids came in last minute to help us out with all we must have had 5,000 or 6,000 trucks come in, at least probably more like 4,000 or 5,000 kids on Seabreeze. So a lot of people came in at the last second to help us out. I was appreciative because I work, but we have plenty of resources for the weekend. They're all on mandate to work, so they'll be here.
Well, that's
Writing them all
great.
tickets.
In any way that I can help with that, I have available parking. If people are drunk, they can park on one of my parking lots, and whatever helps Daytona.
Okay.
And Daytona PD.
Alcohol's not a typical issue with this group.
What is the?
They're mostly between 16 and 20.
Oh goodness.
Just stupid.
The problem I had.
Poor decision making, maybe.
Yeah.
The problem I had on my parking lot, they would come there, they were 16 to 20, but somebody would get them the liquor and they were drinking in their trucks. So I once was probably a kid that snuck liquor, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
That's the limitation over.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think what I would ask is, as far as like the stats and everything, sometimes those numbers go in and out of my head. I mean, I'm not going to ask you a specific one, but I think each time you come, what I'd like to hear is maybe if there were any specific operations carried out and how that went, like, for example, a bicycle theft ring or a fentanyl dealer was taken in, or, a couple little anecdotal things about successes in the CRA.
Within that,
Kind of thing.
with,
So either this time or, in the future.
I'll let Captain Niccolo know. I just fill in whenever he needs.
I like to hear those
Yeah.
kind of.
Do you guys want to hear the stats from the impromptu truck event from the weekend?
I'd love to.
Sure.
Yeah.
We serviced an extra 65 calls for service. We did 246 traffic stops. We wrote 356 tickets and made 5 misdemeanor arrests and towed 3 of their cars.
Only 3?
Right.
Only 3. Only 3.
Yeah.
So, but we also weren't able to, because we didn't know, we couldn't put up the signs at the bottom of the bridges indicating it was an event area in this.
It seemed like it was a pop-up for
Very
sure.
much so.
Yeah.
So, but I think they handled it very well and they did a good job and no one got hurt. So
It seemed like it went pretty smooth.
it did.
Yeah.
So do you have to get some special permission to put those signs up, or are they in a?
The city does it based on the chief requesting it for a known unsanctioned event per the statute.
So you can't just whip them out of the closet and put them up?
Because I asked, I wanted.
I was asking that too.
Just as if I can be of any help, is like I said, is that I have parking lots as you come across there, and if anything I can do to help you and the chief and our department, just let me know, and it's done.
Okay, sounds good. I'll
Thank
let
you.
Captain Niccolo know.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions?
I'm curious about the group you had on the boardwalk. What happened to them? You had a detective?
Because there was no more money to maintain that redevelopment unit that was within the department. We had what we called a community relations department. It was way back when we had like 250, 260 cops in the agency. So they were able to splinter off smaller groups to be dedicated to something specific. This Main Street redevelopment unit came from this redevelopment money. That's how it was funded, but I don't know why it broke up. I don't know whether or not there was no more funding for it. I have no idea. But that ended maybe 15 years ago, at least.
And no plans to bring it back?
Well, that's what.
We would love to have something back like that. It would
Let's
put
ask
dedicated
about that.
officers into those spots, especially like the boardwalk. Right now, we have two 12-hour rotations. We have 2 cops, one on each rotation that pays attention in that core area with, like we like to call it the core area, plus the boardwalk, because that's where we get a lot of our issues. So, and a lot of the homeless issues that arise because that's where they like to be.
What could we do in the redevelopment area to
If there's
bring
funding.
it to somebody's attention?
Can we advise, can we ask the city manager to take
so.
a look at it? How do we do that, Angela? Can we? Kind of. Oh, we have money in the CRA.
I don't know if it can come from that.
I think that would be something that we'd probably bring up in a visioning board publicly. Yeah. Yeah.
To answer that, the chief is the one who, sets the budget and recommends to the city manager additional staffing if it's needed. So I would say we would first need to start with the chief.
I think the issue with us at this current moment is that we had gotten so low with our numbers that his thought is we just need to get back to our base staffing of what the city allows us to have so that it takes a lot of the pressure off of everything because
Makes sense.
spend a lot of money.
Becomes dangerous for the officer.
And the citizens as well. I mean,
I'm more worried about the danger for you all because you're keeping me safe and all of us safe, and it's hard when you're overtired having to work
Yeah,
double
that's
and
true.
triple overtime.
I mean, the good thing is that they're anticipating that we have back to our minimum staffing by the end of the year. So hopefully
good
that's
news.
a good thing. And they're hiring some really good candidates.
A little bit less double time, huh?
That would be great. Any other questions?
I think
No,
that
you're
takes care of
very
it.
important.
Thank you for your service. Thank you. All right, now we're on to public comments here. So first we have John Nicholson. Come on up, John.
Yes, ma'am.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granview Avenue. With regard to the police protection that we got, we paid $1 million for it. We bought 5 police cars. We did all the detailing in the whole 9 yards. And we got a police officer for 5 minutes a day. And then they went to Midtown. That's why we don't have it anymore. If you remember, Glenn Ritchie was the mayor. He asked for an audit. They found 27 things that the Main Street CRA was doing that it shouldn't have done. One of which was taking the $1 million and the police officers having emergencies for 365 days out of the year in Midtown for a little over 12-hour shift. So that's why we didn't continue it. We had the money, but we felt that we were not getting the bang for our buck, and so that's why we no longer have it. We can do it again if you wish, but make sure that they stay in Midtown.
Legally, how could they do that? Go from one redevelopment area?
It was
to
an
the other?
emergency. And the city manager at the time said, it's legal in an emergency.
In an
you can
emergency
send them somewhere else.
situation, yeah.
But the audit said 365 days is not an emergency.
No.
So
No.
the city was required to pay back the money, and they have yet to do. So I think there's $1 million sitting around somewhere. Two, the Grandview sale. We have a property that we were supposed to sell. We bought it near Amy 20 years ago. We fixed it up. We tore down one property. It's now a duplex rather than a fourplex. We were supposed to sell it when it became appropriate, and we were going to make some money. I would like to know where we're at that. At some point, we should sell it. We should have sold it when the property were going crazy. We would have made a profit. I still think we can make a profit, but we should get rid of it and put it back on the tax rolls, as well as the vacant lot next door.
Which property on Grandview are you talking about, John? Which property?
2
on
houses
Grandview?
down from her.
It's down for me? Oh, that one.
Yeah, it's a duplex and
146.
something. Yeah, we've had it for 15 years or so, 20 years. What else? In the overview that you saw, there is a line item for the advertising budget. The downtown CRA gives $100,000 a year to the DDA for advertising. We've always needed that funds to advertise events on Main Street. We've always got the Main Street Merchants Association to cough up the money. The money for closing the streets comes from the Main Street Merchants Association. These funds are available. We can use them. I'm asking you to, again, look at it and take the funding to help do something on Main Street 200 times a year. Because you can do that. And you need to have bodies on Main Street because no one's going to open a store if there's nobody walking around.
No.
Yes.
When they have the event during the day, there is a reason. But so many times, those are events are after we close at 5:30.
Yes, but that's
and it's
you
the
all determine that. And since
I had
the
nothing.
Main Street Merchants Association, if you go to a meeting and you have 7 people, 6 of them are bar owners,
Yeah,
and their interest is bar events.
yeah.
The only one that isn't was Charles, and he owned a leather shop. Everybody else were bar owners.
Yeah.
So if more merchants went and demanded that more things be done during the day, you would get what you needed. Okay?
Well, my one voice obviously didn't. They used to have crab claws and all kinds of things during the day, and you would see families there
We
pushing
used to have the
kids.
food truck rally on the
Yep.
street there,
Yes.
too.
Yep.
And then
But,
they
but they also gave it to Al Smith, who is not the best advertisement. You had a guy named Frank that really pushed a lot of that stuff,
yeah,
and then they got rid of him for the local.
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
but again, that's things that you can look at and push. Also, the Corbin Building, I checked on it at the office downstairs. There's been no movement on it whatsoever, the Corbin Building. Then Ken from the City Commission showed me a photograph of somebody that he knew did a food thing in South Carolina, in the CRA area. Fantastic. Savage Brewery. So you may want to look at that to kind of recommend that that kind of thing. There was no movement.
I'd like to add, I've recently talked to some developers who have actually, his name's Joe Gillespie and a few others, and they have discussed some interest, but the problem is, I think it's only 78. I'm not very familiar with it. I just heard about it actually this afternoon, because I'm bringing a lot of developers to Daytona for different projects that I'm trying to do. And I think what it is so many days something closes on that, or the city, what is it, 7 days or something, or 8 days or something does?
June 26, I believe, is an RFP out for the Corbin Building. Whomever wants to submit a proposal to develop the Corbin Building, to lease the Corbin Building for those particular activities that you're hearing. The RFP is out, and I think it closes at the end of June.
It closes at the end. of June.
Yeah, you have to have your proposal in by the end of June. I'm not certain on the date, but I thought it was the 26th.
That came and went quickly.
And I kind of like what this young lady here said. She's one of my favorite people, because like she said is that I've been involved in adult entertainment. I've been involved in family entertainment. I really, me personally, I like to push family entertainment. And because you can bring the husband, wife, and family out, and there's more people spending money in our community.
Yeah.
And feeding our clothing shops and everything else, and our restaurants, and maybe sometimes we might get a cocktail. And then at night, there's maybe other things, but don't have those events on the same day. Secondly, one day, he was city manager when that police thing was that
Quigley.
Was that Chisholm?
Oh, Chisholm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's the important part, and I'm a big fan, and I'm going to tell you, I'm a big fan of our city manager today. Okay, totally different to me personally. Different, in my opinion, night and day. Best thing happened to Daytona. So all we got to do is get these things to him, but be patient, because he's probably got a million things we don't even know about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so much pressure. So I can tell you myself, 20 years ago, I never would have even thought being on this board. You know, I'm being honest. I really didn't believe in the city like I do today. And the reason I do is the city leadership. People like Ann Ruby, people like yourself. And I really think that right now, and you're very important, John, because you bring up the hard points that nobody wants, that has the guts to it. So you're a very important part of this city, and I greatly appreciate it.
And he's been doing it a long time.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
Yes, you have, and you've been educating us. But I think that you're picking up the right points, and I appreciate it. And please don't stop.
Yeah, you have been spending money. You all don't realize it, but I think it was $750,000 Sheila McKay pushed to get the boardwalk redone, the paving and whatnot. That was from CRA funds. You spent another $750,000 on A1A, the landscaping. The city thought they could save money by doing it themselves, and it was a mess. They were spending more time pulling weeds and shrubbery and whatnot. The new design is simple. They can do the entire 10 blocks in one day rather than a month. So there are ways that we've spent money well. And the pocket park that you were referring to, as you walked in, there was a little gazebo, not at the end, but right in the middle.
Yeah.
The tree had raised the sidewalk, and it was a trip hazard. So I talked to David about
Trip hazard? That
Trip
sounds
hazard.
familiar.
yeah, which reminds me, your trip hazard on the corner next to the cemetery. They took that
No,
lock out.
I
You noticed
asked
that?
about that for months, years, actually.
You-
No,
years.
I mean, my parking lot, the sidewalk, that above.
David Weller, if it ever happens again, David Weller, Public Works.
Waller.
Waller, sorry. You'll get it done in a heartbeat. All right, thank you.
Oh, I have a question to ask you, or to anyone on the board. Now that Teresa Doan has sold her properties, Who is going to be in charge, basically, of events that happen there?
I was actually going to ask the same question. Teresa was the one that headed all of that.
All right.
Main Street.
And I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Does
I
anyone
have
know
no answer to
who's
that. I
going
don't
to-
know who's
That's a
heading it.
private
What-
group. It
wasn't-
had nothing to do with this group.
Who was the one that purchased it from her? Wasn't it the Tomoka?
Well, it's Consolidated Tomoka's new company.
From my
Purchased.
understanding,
Yeah.
from the bar side, because I used to be deeply into the bar business, I believe they're bringing in a management group of guys to run the bars. And
They are. It's the doghouse.
I believe it's Dave. They call him Diamond Dave.
I'm not.
That's his name in the bar business. I don't, Morzak or something like that. I think he's the one doing it now. From
What's
my
his name
understanding.
again?
They approached me, and some people approached me. So I just.
It was a question I wondered as well, because Teresa headed most of the Main Street Merchants
Yes,
Association.
yes.
So what's going to happen on the street now?
Well, actually, it was the News Journal that called and asked if I could get the information because they want to interview the person.
Oh,
So,
well, that'll be a good interview to read.
yeah.
All right. So we have another public comment. Ginny Nazak. Yes, someone does have to step up. You're absolutely right, Ann.
Good evening, board members and fellow citizens. I hope everyone's having a good night. Mr. Thomas, I really appreciated your presentation.
Yes.
And I actually saved the meeting agenda on my phone but to keep that overview and refresh my memory and so on. I also really liked hearing the presentation about Peninsula Club. That is such a charming building.
Yes.
In addition to having our neighborhood meetings there, we also, as Beautification Tree Advisory Board, we have our annual awards gala thing there, and it's really charming. So
Yeah.
I hope it gets open soon. Also, there was some tall, like kind of tropical looking trees or other vegetation out front that got removed, and now it's just flat out there. So I would love to see it get some more
Right.
trees, trees on the beach side especially. We need some more greenery to mitigate the heat and
Yeah.
help with stormwater and so on. And there's been a correlation, like a proven correlation between heat levels and crime. So yet another
Oh, gosh, that's
benefit.
worrisome then. 'cause it's-
Right? They're just as if that's not enough. Okay, and then another thing, I have been so pondering this whole 27-story condo that's literally looming over us, this thing. And I like to try to think of creative stuff. So there's a lot of really smart minds in this room, in these rooms, people who know about real estate, people who know about development stuff, people who know about things like land swaps. I know the phrase land swap, and I know things kind of go on. I wonder if it's possible, it might be possible, this gentleman who wants to build this giant condo, maybe there's some way to swap it with some land that's more closer to the Main Street area where there's already the hub of everything, and get some more people that'll patronize the businesses. I mean, it's already a developed area, whereas the place that he wants to put it, I mean, it is developed, but it's more like of a neighborhood kind of feel as opposed to being smack dab close to the ocean center and all that. So if we think of anything creative, I've thought of the strangest thoughts about other things, like that thing across from Steve's Diner. I'm like, hey, Steve, why don't you, hey, Christos, why don't you get them to build a thing over the A1A? I mean, I think of wild ideas. So let's use our creative brains and see what we can maybe come up with.
I didn't want you to leave before I had a chance to ask you this. Some time ago, I was talking to you about beautification on East ISB. And the one thing is I really enjoyed, I've learned a lot from you. Okay, you're very intelligent, you know this stuff. Is it possible to get with you at a later time to start to figure out how to make things look more appealing on that corridor so people have a better view of our
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm not being harsh, but
Oh yeah,
No,
it's something I
because
talk
I
about.
really believe in what you're saying because you're very passionate about it and you're very intelligent about it and very wise. And wisdom sometimes is super, super powerful. And in that forethought, a pound of prevention is worth more than 2 pounds of cure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
You know what
I'd
seems
really
to be
enjoy that if
helping?
you could help.
I would love to help, and what seems to be helping actually is there seem to be other citizens now who are really chiming in about like native landscaping, authentic beachside landscaping. There's more people talking about it in the public discourse, and so it's growing as a concept. One thing I've been starting to explore, I'm always tend to be kind of a late adopter of things, but this AI stuff, I kind of like shied away from it. But the other day I thought, well, why don't I try a little something? And I didn't do a landscaping thing. I did a caricature of a politician. But it was really cute. I verbally spoke into my phone and asked for a thing, and it made a thing. And so I'm going to try a thing where I maybe provide a picture of the beachside of the ISB and say, please depict this, very lushly interspersed with indigenous vegetation and water-wise things.
Yeah, because
And if not, I will just draw it by hand. It'll be a little bit easier and prettier if I do.
Might be a little quicker with the AI.
Yeah. And I don't have your art skills, so.
It still takes time.
Yeah, it does take time.
And what I really think is like art, that's beautiful. I did not know that. And what I was thinking about, some of these things that are like doesn't look good, like some of these buildings, we get artists to come in and put artwork on them. We have the right landscape. We do the right things that just make people feel welcome when they come into our city, so they spend money in our stores and help our residents and our small businesses pay their bills and make a better way of life. The problem that I have with a lot of developers are the ones that infringe on the way of life of our residents. I would never, you know what I mean? I just don't understand it. If I don't see that the fact it's going to improve the way of life for our residents in our city, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I just don't want it. Yeah. What do you think?
You voted yes on the
I know it.
I look at.
Do that over again.
I'm gonna tell you why I voted yes. Because from a tax increment standpoint, that's why I voted yes. Because the problem I see is we're gonna have to rebuild the beach. Where are we gonna get the money from? Now, 10 years down the road, yes. And if we don't bring developers in here, the only choice they would have is raising our taxes of our homeowners and our residents. And, we're below the poverty level already. We don't have the money for that. So from an economic standpoint, that's why I saw where it was approving everything. So, the only choice we'd have if we don't bring in new development, pay more taxes. I don't want to pay more taxes. You know what I mean? I don't.
Who does?
No.
And another thing that's great for a city is full-time residents, and full-time residents stay in a town full-time.
Yes.
And besides, everybody has to pay their property taxes, whether they live here or not. And the people who it's not their domicile, they pay higher taxes. But how about those of us who are in town 24/7, 365, spending at local businesses, walking down the street, buying things all the time? And also forging beneficial relationships, doing business with other residents, making like a synergy, making businesses together, growing the ecosystem together. So there's a lot to be said.
There is.
Yeah.
And the scary part is most of your people come to that beach, and that beach is eroding. That's what scares me. And that's why I said it, because when you're talking about rebuilding that beach, I was in Miami when they rebuilt that beach.
Yeah.
And it cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. We're not a super wealthy city, you know what I mean?
Mother Nature
That's
has
reality.
the last word.
Well,
Mother Nature.
well, guess what?
Yes.
The beach
She doesn't
in
have
Miami.
a big paycheck, but I mean, like
Well,
checkbook, but she has the last word.
What lives in Miami is doing great right now. Okay?
Yeah.
I have rental condos on the beach. They're doing great. So what I'm trying to say is, and I love Daytona. Daytona's better than Miami.
Daytona Beach is the best city in the
my opinion.
universe.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is the best city. Well, in my universe.
We're here.
That's all. Because you're here. That's right. Because you're here.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're on to board comments. Who has comments?
Shall I?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I'll try to do this as fast as I can. This Public Works project, is this stuff that redevelopment's paying for, or this Public Works is paying for? This list? Was it included just
go
to
ahead,
kind
go
of
ahead.
show us, or was it stuff that we're paying for?
Well, some of those, for example, ISB improvement, is coming out of CRAs.
Okay.
But it's just for information, for you to have like information what we are doing, what the city is doing in the area.
Because when I saw Schnebley on there, Schnebley's not in the CRA. He's not coming out of the CRA. Okay.
It is not.
That was my question on that. Did any of you guys watch the planning board meeting?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
Okay. So in the discussion for the Silver Beach project, it started out right away, the board members did not seem to be in favor of it. And they made very many, elaborate comments. It went on for a long time, and it wasn't just the public that came out, which the public did come out. I didn't hear one person come up and speak in favor of this. And I'll be brief, but one of the gentlemen on the planning board, one of his first questions was, I see that the redevelopment board voted 5-1, but I don't know why that one person dissented, and he was interested. And that is why I asked to include my notes from the minutes, because obviously he didn't have the minutes to look at.
Right.
None of them had watched our discussion. So everything that happened here kind of went into the wind. And I showed up and I spoke at that meeting and I told them my side. I didn't give them your side. Obviously he saw 5-1, but I gave them my, so I think we have to realize that if we don't follow up on things, it may not, we have to see when these things are scheduled, and the planning board may not get,
More
the
than likely
information.
won't.
Great
Their
point.
packet did not include a details about our discussion.
I thought we had said that we wanted certain things in
There
there.
were a couple, there was a line item about the environmental study, the height, and the bond, supposedly surety bond kind of thing, if that was even possible, which apparently it isn't. But that was all that was included, the amendment. So I just felt like they needed more. And then hearing the board members, we had one planning board member, 2, 3, 4, all said that they were going to vote against the project. And then the developer, or the lawyer for the developer, asked for a continuance to bring it back with significant changes that possibly would, help people. So I am going to make a motion on this board that, because I think this project needs to come back to us. If it's going to have significant changes, it seems only fair that we see it again.
See it again.
So
I think
I'm gonna make a
it
mo-
has to if it has significant changes, doesn't
You'd
it?
be surprised, it's already scheduled. I think.
Does it have to come back to us if they have significant changes to their PD?
We can make sure it
Assistant
does.
city
Yeah, let's make sure it does.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I move to rescind the motion that we made regarding the Silver Beach condo project, adopted at the May.
You could do a motion to reconsider.
Yeah.
Reconsider?
Yes, that's what it would be, a
It would be a
motion to
motion.
reconsider.
Rescind, reconsider. In Robert's rules, it says rescind, but.
The city doesn't follow Robert's Rules of Order. Generally speaking, what cities do is motion to reconsider the vote.
Okay, so
Okay.
I move that we reconsider our motion relating to the Silver Beach condo hotel project, adopted at the May 10th, 2023 meeting, because the project is going to undergo substantial change.
Okay, and technically, if, it would have to be somebody from the prevailing side to make the motion to reconsider.
Okay.
I would like to
I
suggest
so
that we do
move.
Mm.
that.
Well, I just had one question to ask, because we disagree on some things, but we also agree on some things, a lot of things, actually. The question is, when they go in front, yeah, we can say,
So you made a motion, Helen?
yes, yeah. we
I'll
can-
second that
yeah.
motion. Now we can discuss.
Okay, thank you. When it goes in front of the commission, okay, at this point, the commission's is not gonna see our points unless we second this thing and go back over it again, and it actually gets in writing, or that they can actually see the points. Is that accurate?
They're going to change the project and bring it back. They were just going to bring it right back to planning board and skip over us altogether.
Oh,
Now they'll have to come in
I don't
front of
agree
us.
with that.
No.
That's all we're
Yeah.
saying. We're not
Procedurally,
saying-
it definitely
you can
shouldn't
still
happen
vote
that
for
way.
it
Yeah.
If you want.
No, I just think we ought to get a chance to discuss it, because it's really gonna impact.
Agreed.
It's
So
not
planning
whether,
board didn't get the chance to vote it down, is what you're
Correct.
saying, is
Correct.
that they said that they're going to go and amend the project
Well-
and bring it back to.
yeah, and see,
They moved to continue to the next meeting, and the developer's attorney said, we will make changes and bring it back to you, and hopefully it'll be something that you will approve, because he saw 1, 2, 3, 4
Right.
disapprove, before before they put it to a vote, an
Right.
official vote.
It came up, yeah.
They continued it, and I kind of feel like we shouldn't be ignored like that. So I'm sort of, I think that's something that we should.
I'd agree with her. I just don't want another developer to come in to promise to do something and not complete it, and we have another empty lot.
I agree with that. Although, if they're going to be making promises, I mean, we might as well see them again,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I can interject for a second.
Yes, of course, Ken.
They continued the project. They continued the item at planning and zoning.
So they continued it for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
So why don't we wait?
So they wouldn't
It was
come.
actually at least two meetings
Yeah,
away.
so planning and zoning hadn't made the P&Z
Notice.
board hadn't made a decision yet.
Right.
But
So-
he's coming back to change it. It's going to be a
Well,
different
we-
project.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, they're
we don't
bringing
know
it back,
anything,
so we need to know what they're bringing back.
Before we can do anything.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's what, because again, planning and zoning didn't vote it down, they didn't vote it up. It hasn't, when they leave planning and zoning, it goes to the city commission.
Correct.
So that's not even on the table at the moment.
Right.
It's coming back to planning and zoning.
Correct.
For a hearing.
Correct. That's why I asked, is if it's coming back to planning and zoning
It's
all the way
coming
over
back.
again, that means it's got to be reviewed by staff all over again, correct?
Yeah,
Which means
whatever
it's
the changes are.
Probably got to
If
come to
there are
us all over again, correct?
I don't know that part.
The number of changes to the PD? Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, who gets to figure that out, though? I mean, are we
that
going
I
to
don't
follow
know.
through with that? That's all I'm asking this board to.
That's the
Do
the
we?
staff, the planning staff will determine if there's significant changes to the plan.
Okay.
But they don't even know that because.
Because they haven't seen anything
They
yet.
haven't
If we
seen it
can-
yet.
So once planning staff sees these changes, if there's significant enough changes, can we make a request to see the project again before it gets voted upon by the planning board?
They
You don't
won't
think
do
so?
it.
They won't?
I don't know that question. That's
Well,
I would have
I know
to
that's a
research
specific
that
one.
because I don't,
Well-
this is a
Mr.
position
Chair,
I,
If we reconsider our motion, that means our motion, we're pulling back our.
I would be fine with reconsidering
So
our
that
motion. I'm
means
not
that
opposed.
the
We had
beachside-
enough community that was really concerned about
And
it.
you
I have
should
no
watch the
problem.
video
Yeah, I don't
from the
either.
planning board meeting. I would recommend you all
now,
watch.
I will say this, because there has not been any notice to the public about this, although based on the planning commission, the public would probably be in support of your actions. This has not been advertised as something that was going to be discussed today.
okay.
Correct.
Right, well, I think.
So how do
go
we move
back
forward
around the
with that,
horn.
with it being something that wasn't advertised to be discussed?
Move it to, put it on the
Next.
agenda. Is it
Yes.
next?
Next agenda.
I'll make a motion to put that on our next
Second.
meeting's agenda.
And at that point, we may have additional information. I could verify at what point any significant changes to the plans would have to come back to this board versus
That would be
not.
great. That
Good
seems
point.
procedurally the
That
best
does,
way to go.
and
Good
the
point.
next planning
Yeah.
board was July 27th, so our meeting, as long as we have one in July, will
Should be
be
right there.
before that. So I'm
Right.
okay
Well,
with that.
everyone, and do we have to put that to a vote after the motion there, or just?
Hold on a second. Could
We
you
have a
answer, What
motion,
is the
don't we have a
historical
motion?
precedent when they change a project? Does it ever?
That's something I would have to, that's what I have to find out. Since I have been here, this has not happened.
you're right.
So I would have to find out how they have, how that has been addressed in the past.
Okay.
Well, really, nothing's in writing right now, right? So we don't know anything they're going to do until they send something in writing. It's just like, I thought I sold my house the other day. Guy says he's going to give me a verbal offer. Well, I didn't get a check yet, so it's not in writing. So we'll just wait.
So the project will come to staff before it goes to planning board?
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the staff is the one that always looks and makes sure that, and keep in mind that the project, it wasn't a project, it was a rezoning plan development. So it's not even a project.
Yeah.
That what ends up being on that property could even be not exactly as what
Right.
is presented, because it's a zoning issue, not a site plan or a specific project.
Right.
So I don't know if you can, like,
So,
you could remove the motion.
well, I mean, we have a motion to bring it up at our next meeting. I think.
Yeah.
that's-
So
I think that's what we-
whomever made the motion to reconsider needs to withdraw the motion.
Right.
Okay.
And then the motion to include it on the next board agenda.
Okay. All right. So, you
Okay.
withdraw?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a withdrawal, and then I'm going to make a motion to put that on our next meeting for us to
Second.
discuss the changes. We have a.
Second.
All right. There we go.
Who's second?
William.
Will. So hopefully by then
We
we'll
just-
find out something.
Yeah, but we just don't know until it gets in writing. We just, anything could happen.
But we're being proactive, which is good.
Absolutely. Good point.
Thank you.
Great job.
Good job bringing that one up.
Okay, we have to vote.
Do we have to vote on that motion to bring it to the next? Yeah. Yeah, we got to vote on it, correct?
Vote,
Yeah,
anytime you make a motion, you have to
Sorry.
vote. It's a question of whether it's a voice vote or a roll call
Or a
vote.
roll call vote.
This could be a voice vote.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, we have a motion.
Feel better.
I do too. Good point,
So
Amy.
my next question would be, as far as like a public works project, I asked about the Main Street kiosk last
Oh,
time.
yes.
The informational kiosk. Did you, is there any new information on that, or would that be one of these to go on this, public works list?
No, we are doing some research. I have talked to some vendors to change it or, replace some of the,
Okay.
or improve it.
Yeah.
So I don't have an answer for you on this meeting, but I'm working on that. I identify where it is. I have a picture, so
Thank you.
I know I'm working on
It's
that.
on the
I
radar.
just wanted to I'm still in my board comments.
Sorry.
But, all right, so each time we come to this meeting, I'm going to bring a question for the board. What kind of paint is not allowed on signs in the redevelopment area? Who knows? Raise your hand.
I have no idea. Good point.
What kind of paint is not allowed, is prohibited on signs in the redevelopment area?
I have not a clue.
Fluorescent.
That was going to be my guess.
Oh, that makes sense,
I
yeah.
was thinking
Fluorescent.
flashing.
But it's on every window.
Fluorescent paint, so that's just trivia.
Yeah.
Okay, from the,
Good.
my favorite LDC sections. Last week, or last month, I mentioned the redevelopment area standards, which Ray asked me for my copy, and I gave him, and I brought copies for everybody. I don't know if you guys have these. I love them. I just read through them, and I don't know if I'm allowed to give these to all board members. It's just copies from the LDC of section 6.14 redevelopment area standards. They really help me kind of know what, as I go around, what's
appreciate
what's
that.
right and what's wrong. Can I pass them out, or?
Yes, as long as you give the board clerk a copy.
Okay, then there's plenty of
Thank you.
copies for
I'm
me.
going to pass him one and
If Ray wants a fresh one,
Thank
there's
you.
that, and then take one and pass it down.
All right.
Without enforcing these minimum standards, we're kind of spinning our wheels on, reducing blight and improving the area.
Yes, yes.
It's like vacuuming your living room while the roof is caving in. That's kind of why I wanted a dedicated code enforcement officer that would be able to do things like maybe warnings, tickets, somebody who is familiar with these redevelopment area standards. Because some of the code enforcement officers, maybe now they are, because I've been picking on them for a while, but they don't know about these extra standards in the redevelopment area. I've had to kind of have some specific conversations about that. And I would like, to have somebody that could go around and know, like, the things that I kind of pointed out to you on those streets after you left our meeting that time, to go by and go, oh, I need to hit that and that and that. And maybe it's not a life and safety issue of a building falling down, but it's something that contributes to blight in the redevelopment area.
yeah.
So I go back to these standards again and again. I think you'd be surprised at some of the simple things that are included.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'm just going to make quick as I can statement about parking and vacant lot maintenance, which I think is one of the biggest things that we can do to improve our area. I'm a member of Citizens for Responsible Development, a nonprofit, along with Ann Ruby and Sandy Murphy. In 2022, we did a deep dive regarding parking in the redevelopment area, how it contributes to blight and how it can be improved. We made a presentation to staff, and much of our presentation was used during a commission workshop on biker events. Our position is that much of the visible blight in the Main Street CRA can be addressed, or a lot of it, maybe not much of it, but can be addressed with an improvement of vacant lots and parking areas. And these come in three categories in my mind. Vacant lots and parking lots that are used for temporary activities should be held to these standards. They would assure that we're not left with a blighted area between larger events. It requires private investment, because these are privately owned properties, with property owners expending some of the money they earn during these events.
Yeah.
So there's some private investment into the CRA that doesn't even have to come out of our fund. So we ask these people to bring their properties up to some very, pretty simple standards. Other vacant lots. So I've been told by members of the police department they don't like the idea of fencing vacant lots because they're in the standards, they are kind of 6.14K. They have to be fenced, and they don't like fences because it's a visible blocker thing. People can hide behind them, and then if they have to chase somebody through one, they jump over it. So my brainstorm would be to rewrite the standards a little bit and include the availability of a border of, say, short posts, like fence posts with no fence in between, but just enough that you can't drive a car between them.
Yeah.
And maybe paint them all turquoise or something, and that way a vacant lot doesn't look like an empty, with trash blowing across it and tumbleweeds and everything. It looks like something that's actually maintained, and it just gives it, and it would discourage pop-up illegal parking as well. Maintenance and cleanliness of the property must be enforced with fines, unfortunately.
Well, that's how it gets done.
Right. And then there's the third category is licensed pay parking lots. And I think they should be identified and kind of unified and appropriately signed. And maybe one day it would be great to have an app that people coming into the area could see where our legal licensed pay parking lots are. And this would be in a code of ordinances section, which I don't think I included it there, but it's not in the land development code, it's in code of ordinances. Talks about signage for pay parking. There's certain things, and when you drive by and see a sign with a yellow thing that's scrawled $20, that's not the way it's supposed to be.
No, I agree.
Right? So there are rules in there that could be applied. This is the absolute minimum, applies all over the city, not just in the redevelopment area. So I'd like to review, if possible, as an agenda item one day, the condition of all the pay parking lots in the redevelopment area and come up with some suggestions of how to improve the user experience for our visitors. I'd like to see at minimum an app and uniform signage directing people to licensed lots. And at the most, imagine a nice, an arm with a credit card payment or wave your thing and you go in and you pay. And that way somebody doesn't, the visitor experiences pull up and like, where's the attendant? Oh, it's that guy over there with the pile of Coke cans next to him. It just make us look a little bit.
Looks cheap.
Looks a little bit better for public. So I would ask to, if there's a way that we can work on looking at a list of the licensed pay parking in the area, and then maybe do like a visual, either with some photos, and kind of see what we can do. And then determine what's needed as well, because we think we need a parking garage. Do we? What's the plan or the goals for adding spots? In 2011, a ULI, I forget what that stands for, study, which we have online, stated that a parking authority was the #1 thing that the Main Street area needed. But I don't think we have a parking authority here in Daytona Beach. So that's something that I think I would like to see, and so I'm bringing it up.
Could I?
We don't even have to discuss it right now, but just you guys think about it and maybe.
Oh, I think it's a good point.
Could I ask one question? I just support, I'm not paying, I agree with 99% of everything you said. Only thing I disagree is with the parking lots, because I've been in the parking business for 20 years. The problem that I have on East ISB, it's the most heaviest traveled road. If I did not have a fence that people had to jump over, I would have had multiple cars broken into. There's not.
Yeah, I didn't mean take down a fence that's there.
No. What I'm trying to say is, I think it has to be beautiful where they can look through it. Like I was trying to refer to Ken Thomas, like we could do like these aluminum things that look really good that people can see through.
Yeah.
Possibly something looks better than a chain link fence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I think it's genius what you came up with, and I'll be honest with you, 100% agree, 99.9% agree. That was the only thing. And then the other thing is, we're doing a lot on Main Street, but we also have to do a lot on the corridor, because when I send people in, and I'm constantly bringing business, developers enter town to come and, hey, invest in Daytona, because my dad's done a lot of businesses in Baltimore and DC. What happens is that when they come through, they think it looks seedy, right? So couldn't there be, like, maybe we put a welcome center on East ISB somewhere, or maybe we put something that promotes the city in a more positive light. And I have no problems with helping to do that and bring the people to do that. I just don't know how, the guidance of this board and the guidance of you.
I think we need to promote beautification as much
Yeah,
as we can. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Well,
incentivize beautification.
Incentivizing is one thing, but we've got to incentivize the small businesses to open on East ISB. Before this administration came in with Ken Thomas, they found more reasons to tell you no to open your business on East ISB than to say yes. Yeah. And when I come in personally, from my personal opinion, is this administration finds a reason to tell people yes. So, it's, I don't know.
Agreed.
And I would second what she brought up, because it makes sense. It's logic.
I agree.
I just had a
Go
question.
ahead, Helen.
The meeting with Miss Ruby and you, would I legally, I'd love to go and listen to what you all were discussing, but would that put me at risk for talking to somebody unless it was something that was not coming up before this board?
My suggestion is you can go and observe, and that would be all that you should do, because it's hard to say what would come up. There's nothing preventing you from going to citizen organization meetings. You cannot interact with Ms. Pyle. You would not be able to address questions or ask questions. So at best, if you would like to attend, just go and attend and observe and not make any comments.
Oh, okay. Because my specific thought was discussing plantings. I mean, I grew up here. I know what used to grow on the beach and why it's not down there. It used to be beautiful with ice plant and things that grow naturally here. And that's why I would want to have time to talk. And
Let's bring it back.
I mean, you can always at any time talk to Ms. Ruby, or, separately outside of, any kind of organized form meeting.
Okay,
It's just,
bring them up here. I mean, this is a great place to talk about that kind of stuff.
I think her is more asking questions and finding information to which to bring to the board, so.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. Other comments? Board comments? Anyone?
One thing I observed in today's meeting and presentations from the public is that if we simply just beautify the entrances to ISB, everything that just brings people here, the businesses will come. I mean, really, if you make the fences look better, you bring the palm trees back, it's the start.
I agree with you, and it is a start, but we actually got to open up businesses there. We got to get people a reason to stop, and the businesses that we open on East ISB have to promote every other business in our community. It's not like this is our backyard. And what happens to my neighbor across the street? I had a lady say, "Well, why are you calling the police? That tent's not on your property. It's on
But it
your."
affects your property.
Well,
Sure.
well, here's what I'm thinking. If Beaches goes out of business, I got a nasty, it's a mess. So, we have to stand up for each other. What happens to your property or anybody's property that's here or anybody that invests in Daytona, we want to protect them. And we're going to have differences of opinion amongst ourselves, what's going to protect them. But here's the point is, we all volunteered here for the same reason that we want to help Daytona.
We care.
Yes, right. That's right. So,
Agreed.
so I think it's just getting businesses open and getting something done that's positive. Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
That's a big
Write the
step.
name of the man that
So if we want to have a visioning board and have it be
I can
part
tell that.
of our public board, do we have a way to put that out? We would just put it on the agenda? Just put on the
Be
agenda?
part
as
of your
it?
agenda
Right.
as a new business item.
Okay. Do we want to make a plan to put this out on the agenda in the future? No, a visioning board. A visioning board, because I think a lot of the things that we discuss could be discussed in the visioning board, and obviously a lot of the things that the public brings up, we can also discuss and have it be part of a visioning board.
What a visioning board would do. Like, would we sit here and discuss like we're doing now, or?
Well, it would be at a meeting like this, but we would hopefully invite the city manager along with Ken, and then we would also have the public, and we could discuss what we want to accomplish within the redevelopment bounds that we can accomplish.
Like a city workshop, similar to the way a city does a workshop?
Yes,
so.
yes,
Right,
yes,
like-
yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah, okay.
Flip it over, it's on the other side.
Oh, okay. I thought.
Okay, passing notes. You cannot be doing that.
Okay, she asked me for the name of the person that knew, his name is Doug Corsack.
Okay.
She asked me to write it down. She asked me on the
We were
thing.
discussing it earlier, and I
It's just
couldn't
Doug
remember the
Corsack.
name.
That's it. To make it,
So basically.
if I pronounce his name right, hopefully he's not watching this in a.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I may, let's
Yes,
wanna
go ahead,
talk
Ken.
a little bit about, your visioning or your intent to have a visioning session. Now, you have a redevelopment plan
We do.
already in place that there was a lot of work that went into these redevelopment plans. So you have a basis of, here are the things that we believe at that particular time in place when that redevelopment plan was done that needed to be improved. Infrastructure, housing, commercial development, all of those things. And that is in your redevelopment plan. So you got your goals and you got your objectives.
Right.
And what happens in our case is that staff takes that redevelopment plan and it starts working on all of those things in the redevelopment plan.
Right.
What the board, the CRA board, and what the advisory board does is every year what you can do is prioritize what you want to see.
Right.
So when we talk infrastructure, there may be, we want to see more sidewalks in the community. We want better street lighting. Those are the things that you talk about that are tangible things that we can do. Because your plan really outlines just about everything you need to know about, redeveloping of the Beachside. What happens is that you have to have staff and the administration and everybody in the commission, everybody working toward implementing that plan. And as advisory board, you can take the initiative and say, yeah, we got all these things in there, but here's what our priorities are.
Right.
And can you work on those for the next 12 months?
Right.
May I make
So
a?
that's what I recommend, that you focus in those things that you want to see over.
That's
the next 12
exactly
months.
kind of what I had envisioned for having a visioning board, is what we could come together and discuss everything that we want to try to accomplish within, the remainder of the time we have and the CRA funds and everything
Right.
that we can bite off at
Yeah,
our time.
because you talked about some good things. You talked about promotion of Beachside. How can we do that? The kiosk. marketing, and you talk about sidewalks, you talk about beautification.
Right.
There's a host of things. Now, who's going to do all those things?
Right,
You
right.
know, so the good thing is that, what you describe here in this board, we don't actually go out, and Angela and Michelle and I, we don't actually go out and do the sidewalks.
Right.
But we would contact our Public Works Department so that they can put that in their capital improvements, or at least in their tickler, and say, for the Beachside, here are the things that we want to see done. And what does it take for you to get those things done over the next 12 months? Is it funding, or is it just timing, or whatever it is?
All right.
Has this board done that in the past? Either make recommendations for improvement and pass it along to the planning commission? I'm not sure how.
Well, it is internal, so we're staff.
Yeah, we would recommend the
So what you're
staff.
recommending as far as improvements, we would contact those individual departments to work on beautification of a street or new street lighting. Public Works, we would contact them to say, this is a priority of our advisory board or of our
So that's
CRA.
something you and Angela would do? correct?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Now, if it's been done in the past, I don't know, we're sort of newbies.
I'm
but-
not sure either.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, well, I guess it's almost like it's whatever's in the budget, that's what we got. In other words, what you're saying. So you already have a predetermined budget that we can pick from. And like a very intelligent man told me one time, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we'll take on one thing at a time, and we'll pick the priority of those things and we'll fix them one bite at a time. We'll eat that elephant. It's just a big elephant.
Just keep on bringing things up to the board.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy.
You got a comment?
Well, I would just, I don't know if the visioning board discussion is over or not, but if each of us reads the redevelopment plan for Main Street and South Atlantic and reads all that information and takes a look at the LDC, look up redevelopment and see what's specific to the areas, that's how I came up with the parking idea.
Right.
And then driving around saying, what could be the best thing
What do
that
we
we
need?
can, what do we need to fix? So each one of us might have a different thing that we like, and I'm gonna keep bringing up my little,
all should.
ideas. And if each of us do that kind of homework and
Right.
look around and come back with something specific, I'd love to hear what everybody, else.
I agree. Yeah, so I'll look through it and we can get this done organically.
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments? Anyone? All right, seeing none. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.